Okay, this is less about, teaching you to be an elder than asking the question, what is an elder? Especially in these times. So I'm going to begin with a little joke. My dad was so competitive that on his deathbed, as he breathed his last breath, he said, "Let's compete to see who can hold their breath the longest." He said, "Staring contest, go." Because this is an inquiry, there are a lot of things to consider. Be prepared for a variety of perspectives. As I give this talk, listen for ideas with which you agree, disagree, or would like to explore. And we can discuss this after the talk. And you might have a perspective that I did not consider. I'm going to suggest that if you're still competing with younger people or even yourself, you may not be an elder. An elder may be more gentle in a place of giving and receiving. Maybe not all the time, but perhaps when it matters. It could be that becoming an elder is to claim our experience, teach or lead with humility, pass on our knowledge, or recognize emerging wisdom in those acquiring age and maturity. It may be that we become more motivated to embody as an elder when we realize that the buffers of time have thinned and impermanence compels us to gather wisdom and act with the insight of a life's perspective. The idea of an elder is common in indigenous tribes and probably goes back to our Paleolithic roots. We have to consider that life was challenging in hunter-gatherer cultures, and it took more than time to achieve old age. It took a great deal of skill to become an elder, and there were few elders to guide the tribe. In elephant cultures, it's the old matriarch who has vast knowledge of geography and resources, such as hidden water. Indigenous elders likely had a similar depth of knowledge and connection with the land. Around 60,000 years ago, when it seems likely that Homo sapiens acquired complex language, the elders likely became the storytellers, lineage holders, and spirit mediums, those with the most experience and deepest connections with the essence of the land, plants, weather, animals within the tribe's circle of experience. When tribal cultures began to give way to civilization, the spread of cities and agriculture, competition for resources likely led to the gradual replacement of elders with leaders and rulers. This began around 5,000 years ago, about the same time as the development of written language. It's worth mentioning because power and control slowly began to dominate wisdom. It seems to be a pattern across the world. When resources become scarce, cultural models of dominance and control emerge. For the most part, we no longer live in tribal cultures, although there is growing nostalgia and support for indigenous cultures and a view of living in harmony with our world. So I've been to Sun City, Arizona, where my parents lived for 3 years. That is an example of segregation by age. It may or may not be a good model for aging. Our current situation is complicated. Modern medicine has increased lifespan. The rate of social and technological change can give some of us the feeling of being left behind. At any rate, I don't believe that age automatically confers the archetype of the wise old man or woman. I think it's likely that people the world over have their share of cantankerous and even bitter elderly. The actor Betty Davis said, "Getting old ain't for sissies." She was expressing a secret that was hidden in plain sight. Our culture may still celebrate youth at the expense of aging. Our culture has been slow to acknowledge the genuine challenges and opportunities of aging. Of course, there are healthy models of aging to be discovered. It may come down to examining our experience and beliefs and making adjustments as we go. For example, genuine insight and unselfish service are always going to be valuable, and these are things that can ripen with age. We might lean toward earth-saving values, acting with future generations in mind, and leaning toward that Paleolithic tribal notion of the elder as holder of essential knowledge and wisdom. So this might be a good time to change gears, to go in a slightly different direction with the introduction of a joke. A man approached a psychology professor and asked, "Could you explain what is a Freudian slip?" And the professor replies, "Yes, but why do you ask?" And the man said, "Last night I was having dinner with my father, and I meant to say pass the salt, and instead I said, 'You bloody bastard, you ruined my life.'" I think that's funny. In parent-child relationships, especially in our culture, plaque and tangles are common, which is why grandparents have some advantage in establishing a gentler relationship. Grandparents can be good elders for their grandchildren, having prior experience, knowledge, and equanimity with which to provide love and support. Author and physician Rachel Naomi Remen tells a story about her grandfather, a rabbi, who called her his little beloved soul. His words gave her great comfort and trust in her place in the world. After he died, Rachel told her mother how much these blessings had meant to her. Her mother responded, "Rachel, I've blessed you every day of your life. I just never had the wisdom to do it out loud." I recall that my grandfather had gifts for me that my parents could not give. A caring and less entangled relationship may have something unique to offer. And that may be true for relationships generally. Joseph Campbell told a story he'd heard where a grandfather was walking along the beach and gave his grandson the ocean. He literally said, "I give you this ocean for as far as the eye can see." This gift had great impact, and Campbell maintained it was a gift that only an elder could give. Campbell felt that the same offer from the father would have been scorned or rejected. Part of it is that the grandson is not in competition with the elder, as he might be with his father. I like to think of it this way. The elder who can gaze at the next horizon without flinching is more capable of transmitting that view, the mythical sense that there is so much more to life than meets the eye. Despite the possibility of diminishing physical attributes, their sense of direction remains clear. To transmit an essential view requires a degree of awareness. We don't need to be articulate to transmit something essential. Acceptance, love, compassion, deep listening, expressing trust and confidence, or being grounded are all essential qualities that are transmitted just by being aware that you can and do embody those qualities. You can share essential qualities and not worry if you are creating immediate results. So for example, if you are a good listener with love and compassion, you can bring kind patience into the relationship. That patience can take some of the edge off of expectation or even the shame that others may put on a child or young adult. An elder can encourage the intrinsic worth in another. They can be someone who motivates through appreciation or loving someone for who they are. An elder may also be seen as someone who has the opportunity for giving back to their family, community, tribe, or culture. Genuine and unselfish giving can take many forms. Wise monetary gifts and meaningful service can be important. And it is possible that retired folks may have one or both to offer. But perhaps the most important is being your best self. Your life's pattern can be contagious to the collective consciousness, whether you are aware of it or not. Anyone with valuable experience can also become a situational elder. One can be a mentor, sharing knowledge or experience at any age. In Japanese, the word sensei is generally translated as teacher, but a literal translation would be a person born before another, senior. In karate, I was called sensei. I was born into karate excellence before any of my students. It may be that another path for an elder is to be a leader, teacher, or give advice. Perhaps an elder can distill the best of their experience as they lead or teach. There's a caution. It's a good idea to use skillful means and have a degree of insight or wisdom if you plan to be a leader or mentor. The acquisition of deep insight and wisdom does take some time to acquire, which leads to my next topic, acquiring wisdom. Psychiatrist Dilip Jeste, a past president of the American Psychiatric Association, has been studying healthy aging and acquiring wisdom for over 20 years. With help from colleagues at UC San Diego, Dr. Jeste developed a wisdom index, a self-survey designed to measure acceptance of diversity, decisiveness, emotional regulation, empathy, self-reflection, and social advising. If you have interest in the survey, the link is provided in the chat room. That's what I mentioned to Laura at the beginning here. I took it. I think it's interesting. Dr. Jeste states that there are 4 components to becoming wise. The first is self-reflection. With self-reflection, we can gain insight and make plans to try and better ourselves. Doesn't mean we're better, it just means we're self-reflecting on the process. The second and most important component of wisdom is empathy and compassion, which includes self-compassion. He gives the obvious example that highly intelligent people who lack empathy and compassion can behave unethically or perform horrific acts of violence. The third component is emotional regulation, to call on a measure of calm during times of stress. Emotional regulation is a skill that can prevent automatic emotional reactions to unexpected or stressful situations. For example, we may experience someone's road rage. If someone cuts us off on the road, we can train ourselves to respond with focus and deep, regulating breaths. Calm is a quality that you can cultivate like compassion, just a bit at a time. Another tool to promote emotional regulation is cognitive restructuring, which involves restructuring the stories we tell about others. For example, if someone speeds past you on the highway, it may not be because they are reckless and thoughtless of others. That's a story. It may be they have a child in the back seat who is having a seizure and they are rushing to get help. Or if someone acts in a thoughtless way, you may consider that they're having a bad day. We've all had bad days. We may need to let go of stories that we tell ourselves about others that are reactive and lack insight. There is no one size fits all in this. Sometimes a jerk is just a jerk, and you may need to provide yourself distance if you can. But this response as well comes from observation and self-reflection. And he states the fourth component to acquiring wisdom is accepting uncertainty while still being able to make timely decisions. He states that wise understanding will accept diversity of beliefs and perspectives. Acceptance of diversity may influence our decisions. So to summarize, psychiatrist Dilip Jastay studied healthy aging and acquiring wisdom for over 20 years and distilled his findings into 4 components of acquiring wisdom, which are self-reflection, empathy and compassion, emotional regulation, and accepting uncertainty while still making timely decisions. Acquiring wisdom is something we can cultivate over time, and we should be patient with ourselves. We can make it one of our priorities. One of the consolations of aging is the opportunity for the heart-mind to ripen. You might gather the essential lessons that we've learned through living, make sense of our one wild and precious life. You may recognize that last phrase, which I borrowed from Mary Oliver. I'm going to end with 3 poetic quotes from the wisdom of Mary Oliver. From Messenger. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is gratitude, and to be given a mind and a heart and these body clothes and a mouth with which to give shouts of joy. My work is loving the world. From When the Roses Speak, I pay attention. In this quote, the roses speak. Listen, the heart shackles are not, as you think, death, illness, pain, unrequited hope, not loneliness, but lassitude, rue, vainglory, fear, anxiety, selfishness. And finally, from Wild Geese. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Thank you for your kind attention.